Okay, we are live. Welcome, everyone. I'm Dr. Cody Goldman, and
I am not a doctor, Aaron James Yeager.
But there is two names there, Aaron James.
Yeah, it's one name.
One name,
yes,
but it's two words. So,
Cody's known me a long time. Dr. Cody's known me a long time, so it's a little bit of rewiring there, which brings us right to our topic today.
Right to our topic, exactly. So this topic, exactly, man, this is so good. I thought this is a topic that I work with regularly, but it's not necessarily common knowledge. And it's really, what is your neuronal network and why does it even matter to you? So some of you listening to this might be like, I know exactly what that is. And some people are like, I never even heard that before. So let's just first kind of just process like what really is that. And so the neuronal network is basically a series of neurons. Neurons are nerve cells, and your neurons are connected by synapses. And synapses are these connection points that send and receive signals. Okay. And that's how you actually communicate signals through your brain and body. So this truly is your inner communication system. Your neuronal network is what tells your heart to beat, your muscles to move, and even helps you regulate metabolism. So there's a wiring in the brain that you were born with that already regulates everything for you inside your body. So no one knows what food, how to turn food into their skin. We don't know how to do this into those things, right? So what happens is over time, you've got your sort of subconscious neuronal network. So the wiring of blood flow and circulation, all those things. And when you're born, you come out into the world, you have sensory information that comes in. And when you think about this, you go, why do we even learn? Like, why do we evolve and learn? It's because you have a neuronal network. If you didn't have this, you would stay as an infant. You would continue to touch hot stoves and continue to get burned if it wasn't for your neuronal network, right? So this is there's an electrical firing in the brain. That firing happens across those synapses, and so the result of this is basically, I touch the hot stove, and so I have a neuron that has a hot stove, and then I have another neuron that says touch, and then when it burns, those wire together, and I go, oh, hot stove makes me burn, and so now I've got a thought process to go off of. So it's a pretty cool thing, and it is necessary, okay, and it's an important thing. You could see you would never learn anything.
Yeah.
So that's important for our growth. And it is a very interesting thing because certain neuronal networks that are expansive eventually can become contractive. So, and I find this quite often because the mind is wired in sort of these pluses and minuses and bads and goods. So hot stove, touch, burn, right? So then it's funny because you could say that someone got really badly burned in a hot stove. And so let's say someone says, hey, would you, this happened with my daughter. I said, would you turn that stove on? And the person would be like, no, I don't even want to touch the stove. No, I don't want you to touch the stove. I just want you to touch the button to turn the stove on. No, I can't touch the stove. Right. So there's some disadvantage to the way that our brain gets wired, because A can equal B inside your wiring. So it doesn't mean that it's accurate. It just means that you've wired it that way.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that. Yes. Yeah. That's really good. And I want to add to that by saying, and I'm going to repeat myself on this, but I'm going to keep saying it till people understand it. The entire body, all of our organs are bathed in neurology, in neurons, in the neuroplasticity. Everything is bathed in neurons. Everything can learn. Everything is a central intelligence system that's going on here. And in this microcosm, what you're talking about here, this neuronal network, as you can see, you said A does equal B or does not equal B or whatever. As these things, as we're learning, we come into this world, we're born into this world, and we have these experiences from birth all the way, and especially between 0 and 10, around there, especially when our brains are in theta. which is that lower brainwave length when it's just like a sponge. It's always learning. It's always putting these things together based on our parents, our upbringing, TV, media, exposure, all the data inputs that are coming in. All of that is being wired at this neuronal level and emotional level. So if you're talking about that person that says, oh, no, I can't go turn it on. Stoves are dangerous for me. What if someone, let's just talk about money. Someone has a negative association with money and just as all of a sudden the wiring is like, oh no, I can't make a lot of money. That's going to make it bad. That's going to be like this person, or it's negative. Right there's wired money. Boop, we're going to keep it right here. We're going to put a ceiling on it. It is dangerous to make more than $100,000 a year, or more than my dad or my mom or whatever. These little wirings, these little things, it comes down to the fact that you are not your programming. You don't need to be fixed. You're not broken. It's just wiring. It's just, and I like to also use the word coding. We live in a world where everything is coded, right? Programmers are these awesome heroes, and they're coding everything, coding the applications. There's so much software out there. And we are coded unconsciously most of our life. And in schools, in early life, we're not taught how to recode or debug or redo all this stuff. So I'm glad we're talking about that. I just wanted to add a little bit of frame to that.
I like that. The 100%. So kind of capitalizing on that is this, the neurons that get fired the most create your beliefs, your behaviors, your emotions, and your habits.
Yep.
And
also the neurons that fire together wire together.
Yep, that's exactly it. The ones that fire together wire together. So this is where, this is literally, that's why it should matter to you, is this is literally where your beliefs come from and where your behaviors come from. So like you talked about money. It's one of my favorite subjects for the neural network because it's like I've had moments where, you observe a certain thing, right? There's been moments in my childhood where, I had programming that money was for greedy people.
Yeah.
And so it was like, I'm supposed to be a good boy. I don't want to be greedy. Right. So let me just try to not make much money. Yeah. And it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. It's that the neuronal network is there. And let's understand this ancestrally. The reason it's even there is truly for your survival. So like we knew that, like if you were attacked by something, the brain learned not to go do that thing again.
Yeah.
And so when you are in a sympathetic state regularly, so when we are charged up with the stressors of life that we have not processed through, that's where we are more likely to live in an animal state. I'm just almost tuning that in as I said that. It was like, that's interesting. If there's more stressors that you embody, that you hold, the more criticisms, the more doubts, the more fears, the more that past X was like this. I got rid of that toxic person. The more shit you got in there, the more animal-like you become. And it's because you're in survival. So then it becomes a matter of, how do I avoid these pains in my life and try to get more pleasure? So when you're surviving, this is an interesting thing to tune into. When you're surviving, you're not expanding.
Mm-hmm.
That's growing. A big deal. That's a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah. Just in survival mode. So survival mode, repeat. It's very simple. Stay alive. There's not much more to that, especially when you, like I said, you're holding on to a lot of this. When the neurology is patterned in a way unconsciously, or again, you may not know this is happening, but it's also there. It is something to take responsibility for. But there's so many, it's the automaticity. Automaticity is where all of this is happening. It's also something called ants, automatic negative thoughts. If you ever hear the negative self-talk coming through, those are ants, automatic negative thoughts, things that are built into the neurology, things that you're holding on to. Ants just can go wild in there. You ever just been daydreaming or hanging out and all of a sudden, like, you're like, what are those things I just said to myself? Why the fuck? What the hell was that? Right? You just say, whoa, hang on, back up. That's the automaticity. That's the neurology built in here to keep you in this safety loop. So it's not your fault. It's not negative. It's not bad. It just is. If it's different than what you want to be creating in your life, then you get to take responsibility and start to make the unconscious conscious. And that's why we're bringing this up. So we can take things that are unconscious in automatic loops in survival mode and make it more focused, where we can change our neurology, change our emotions, change our state, and change our results ultimately.
Well said, man. Well said. I was just feeling everything you're saying there. I think I was going to give it a real life example of this. Is I was on a call with a new weight loss client yesterday, and she runs 4 different businesses, just powerhouse woman. And I was asking her, as I do with almost my patients, what's the emotional reason why you want to get the weight off, right? And she had a hard time finding the emotional reason. She was like, I'm a very logical person. And I was like, okay, well, let's see if we can just, for a moment, let's just play a game and see if we did drop into that, right? Yeah. And it was interesting because as she was talking, she literally said, so she runs a company in the fashion industry for women, okay? And she said that she literally said, I am getting so much business right now because I'm more relatable to women because I have 50 pounds extra on my body. And so then I asked her, then why the hell would you ever consciously and unconsciously want to lose the fat if it's bringing you in business? You see the neuronal network? Extra weight is making me wealthy. So
wiring.
if I bring her into my program without addressing that, and so we had to address that before even bringing her in. If I bring that program, I will not bring people to the program unless we know the wiring is going to work.
Yeah.
And there's ways to go around the wiring. So that might be the next sort of conversation to have, but I want to just put that out to you, Aaron James.
Yeah, I think that's that's great for the success of your program, right? It's also you picking and choosing who is a good fit for your thing. And that's just it. Like sometimes it doesn't make logical sense, but the subconscious is not logical. You can't think your way through the emotions. You can't think your way around this stuff. You've got to feel it and understand the motivations and where this coding happened. Again, it's not your fault. It's not who you are. You're not your issues. You're not your results. Those are things that are coming up based on the wiring. So we can help remove the pressure or the guilt and shame is around that. We want to help remove that as well, so don't have any of those continuous loops. But I'm glad you shared that. I'm curious, of course, we don't know who this person is, but when you got to her why, was it clear enough for her that was like, hey, this is a good fit then for the person? Or have you ever had somebody who their why was so contradictory to your program that it just wasn't working? I'm just curious.
Well, no. So the why is only specifically towards why they want to get the weight off. And once you get the actual true emotional why, there's no logic is needed. But I'll tell you what we did, because what I saw was she associated the extra weight with success in her business. So then what I did with that was asked her, so let's explore this. How does the extra 50 pounds affecting your business? And she's like, it's not. And you go, okay, if you look a little further, how you feel. And eventually she started telling me, I crash by 1 o'clock. And I go, so wait a minute, you're losing half your day. Is like, so how does losing half your day affecting your business? And then she started seeing like, oh my God, what could I be doing more if I actually didn't lose half my day? And then I also said, you're also a coaching these people, these women. So what would be a more powerful way to coach? If I have depressed people and I meet them at depression, and that's where we are, I can bring in my program, but I can't take them anywhere. Yeah. What if I met people with my past self being depressed, but having gotten out of it? In other words, what if you coach these women with my past self having 50 pounds and knowing what that's like, but actually having a pathway to know what health is like with health, physical success, financial success, but with the actual health of your body? And so we got to go look at those benefits and drawbacks of like, okay, I'm actually losing out on money because I'm losing half my freaking day. And am I really truly connecting with people in being in the state that they're in versus going to the state where they can be and really leading? I'm ahead of you. Like, they're great friends of ours in the Brand Builders group. that say that their statement is for their company is you're most perfectly positioned to work with the person you once were. And so I mentioned that statement to her and was like, that's where you're perfectly placed, not when you're inside the problem. It's when you've solved the problem. So for her, her business brain was like, whoa. And you unwire the neural network like that.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you. That example helped a lot. That's really good. So hopefully we're getting to the point where like what it is, but like why does the neuronal network, why are the neurons in here? Why is this conversation even that important? And what was coming up for me as you were speaking, and thank you for eloquently walking us through that. If you're listening to this and you're like, well, what do I do? What's an area where I can identify this? And one of the ways that came up is kind of auditing the results in your life, looking at the wheel of life, like spirituality, health, finance, family, relationships, whatever, the different areas of your life, the major categories, and then looking at where the results are subpar. You can score it between 0 and 10, 10 being great, 0 being low, but just going and scoring some of these areas and then writing down specifically the areas of results that you are getting that are subpar, that are not in your highest vision there. And go audit these, because then you can kind of get a description, right? Maybe you're not on a call with a coach like me or Dr. Cody, but like just be kind of taking an inventory of yourself. I think this is a really good thing to do quarterly, even whether you're an entrepreneur or not. But just looking at like what are the different areas of your life where you can audit what is actually going on, the results you're getting. Because if you're not getting those results that you really want, that means you're unconsciously automatically creating stuff. You're in survival mode, or you're in a place where the stuff is just wired in a way that's not going to show up for you. So as with emotions aside as best you can, if there are emotions, that's totally fine. But there's really being honest with yourself where things aren't working in your life, where there's a lot of pain, where there's a lot of struggle, where there's a lot of work and no results, or hard work, but opposite of the results. I think it's a good time to assess yourself and be really honest in these different areas.
Yeah. And you said something, I think, on our last call that really relates to this is you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your, and you can plug in your systems, right? So your neural network, this is your system. Just so people are hearing, this is the system. This is it.
Yeah.
And if it's wired for safety, if it's wired for fear, which many of us, I've been in there, it's wired for old patterns, it will sabotage your attempts to grow, and even at an unconscious level. So that's important to see that, right?
Yeah. So I just did a masterclass this morning with a bunch of people. And one of the most important slides I had up there, after talking about the unconscious mind, a lot of this wiring, listen to this, everybody. There's one really important, you're going to take anything away from this. This is the conscious mind versus the subconscious mind. If you choose something, if your conscious mind wants something, if it desires something, a target, a goal, whatever that may be, and the subconscious mind or unconscious mind has any belief contrary to that conscious thought or goal, the subconscious mind is always going to win. So again, rising to your goal can be stopped by your nervous system, by your automaticity, by the programming that you got going on. And your conscious mind is only about 10% of your potential, but the 90+% of the subconscious mind are things that we don't even know what is connected to or how we measure it. Your subconscious mind, it is going to win out every single time versus the conscious. That's why we've got to make the unconscious conscious. We've got to look at where are these things that we're not getting the results. Where are we setting goals and sights and visions, but not hitting them? That's because it all exists in the unconscious mind. You're going to keep hitting your head against the wall. You're going to keep hitting subpar results if you don't take inventory of these things, regulate the nervous system, let go of the emotions that you've been stacking, and rewire the neurology in the subconscious mind.
Man, I feel like that was a mic drop. It was really, really clear.
Can't drop this one. It's attached.
Yeah. Well, that might be your limited belief. I don't know.
No. It's on there. I've tried. But it's a true statement. And I say that very seriously. And it doesn't have to be so damn serious, but it's like, I want to drive the point home. And what we're talking about here is like all of this. The great news is we can rewire it. That's why we're talking about this, because if we don't make the unconscious conscious, then we're just going to keep, and Carl Jung talks about this, like if we don't make the unconscious conscious, then we're going to believe it and we're going to call it fate.
Yep. I can almost hear people hearing this and asking, how do you make the unconscious conscious? And I want to just say this, there's all kinds of ways, but I want to tell you, it's a lot easier than you would think. Your unconscious is already making it self-conscious. Through what? Through everything around you. That's the funny part. You don't need to go looking for it. I've had people in the past when I was teaching seminars on this of like, how do I find what's in my subconscious mind? I was like, ooh, that's very difficult. You got to do something really challenging. Open your eyes and look at everything around you. Why?
The results that are in the external world are a
Yeah.
reflection of what's happening in the internal world.
Look at your bank account.
Bank account.
Look at your relationships.
Yep.
Look at your heart. Look at your ability to love. Look at your look
levels of pain in the body.
Yeah, that's a good one. Your health level, that's a really big one. And I think that's important.
Fat coming off? Is the muscle being gained? Are there things holding you back? Is there self-sabotage? Like we can go on and on, but
that's a little painful when you're really, I mean, for me, every time I really drop into that, I'm like, it's a little scary. I think even hearing that is like, look at your life, look at your results. I'm like, oh shit, that's my subconscious wiring. Okay.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, being able to drop into that and just look at it and just be honest with yourself about that's, being honest with self is to me one of the most, that's been such a challenge. It's not about being honest with other people, that no one else really matters. It's being honest with yourself that matters.
Yeah,
no one else really,
fucking lying to yourself. That's a big thing. Yeah. We lie to ourselves so many times, and I catch myself still doing it sometimes. And I had to catch myself a couple of years ago in relationship, in everything. Like there was too many lies, and I was out of integrity with myself. So that's another way. Is like where are you just saying things, doing things, and knowing that truth is not that's not true, but then you keep trying to live it out. And it keeps repeating and repeating and repeating. It's radical honesty with self.
Yeah.
Really can get to helping make things that are unconscious conscious.
Absolutely. I feel like a really good topic for us would be the natural ways to rewire the neural network. I feel like we could, drop into that, but with everything from, repetition and emotion, how to interrupt patterns, even moving your body, visualizations, regulating your nervous system. I mean, we could go on and on, but I think that would be, and even of course, a big one, breath work that incorporates a lot of those things in there.
Consistent, deep, somatic breath work. Somatic release is the biggest thing.
Maybe that would be even good, man. From your perspective, is to actually, that would be a great topic. I would love to hear is how exactly scientifically does breath work help to rewire the brain? It'd be fun to do a whole talk on that if you at some point if you open it.
We can do that. Actually, we can do that next week on Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, I think we should.
Or Wednesday, whenever our next one is. We're going back to one day a week.
We'll be doing Wednesdays. We're just rotating, 11 o'clock or 3.
Yeah. So it'll be my turn. So we'll do that topic then.
Yeah.
How somatic breath work can rewire the neurology.
Yeah, I'd love that, because there's so many. I think breath work is one of those things that I've had two of the most significant experiences of my life outside of psychedelics.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and just as impactful and maybe even more profound than the psychedelics was 2 moments with breath work. And it's wild, because you're like, we're talking about oxygen. Like, I think oxygen might have been the original psychedelic.
Oh yeah. Just our breath, specific ways of breathing. It is incredible once you start learning how to upregulate or downregulate your body. To change and alter our states is a big piece of this. So I'm actually really excited to nerd out on the brain breathwork connection. So we'll do that next week on Wednesday, y'all. I think we're gonna do 11:30 again, Mountain Standard Time. I think. But yeah, great topic today, Dr. Cody. I love this. This was fun. Hopefully y'all got some really good stuff out of it. Any questions, comment below. We're here. You can DM us. Any questions, any clarification, please reach out. We love doing this. We love throwing around some wisdom, and hopefully got some good nuggets from this one.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for being on here, man. And I can't wait to have our next call. We'll see you guys.